Welcome to another episode of Otium, the podcast. My name is Ed Nzambi, and I'm your host. Super excited about today's episode topic. First of all, I want to thank you for joining me on this episode. One recommendation before we get started: as you watch these episodes, please feel free to put your questions or thoughts in the comment section. I will do my best to go back and actually answer those so that we can turn that comment section not only to a conversation about the topic, but you can also see how other people are interpreting and making sure they understand what we're discussing. So, super excited about today's topic. We're going to talk about the Otium 5 Challenge. What is the Otium 5 Challenge? How can you use it to build your blueprint for greatness, and in so doing, empower your life's journey? So, without further ado, let's get started. The Otium 5 Challenge is a program that allows you to use activities to build your blueprint to greatness. In today's episode, I want to introduce you to the Otium 5 Challenge. We're going to discuss what is the Otium 5 Challenge. How do you use it to create your personal blueprint to greatness, and in so doing, empower your life journey? What is the Otium 5 Challenge? I would like to give you a working definition. What I mean by that is the definition of what Otium 5 Challenge is not textbook. It's not rigid. My objective is to give you a definition that you understand, and most importantly, you can use. So, from that perspective, I want to describe how you build your blueprint for greatness. In prior episodes, I've talked to you about the fact that there is a blueprint to your greatness. Everyone has a blueprint that they can create and manage towards their greatness. The two things you have to remember about your blueprint is, number one, your blueprint to your greatness is your own. And because it is your own, you have to own it, meaning taking responsibility, taking ownership for its execution. But at the same time, you have to remember that your blueprint for greatness is a living plan, meaning it should evolve with you over time. So why even create an Otium 5 Challenge? Well, the reality is, at some point in our lives, we all aspire to be the best we can be. I call that being great. Keep in mind, though, that being great are moments in your life. They're not a destination. There's something that you continually do during different seasons and against different situations and changes that occur in your life. The thing you'll realize is that most people are not intentional about building a plan, a blueprint to achieve the consistent execution of activities for being great. Because the consistent execution of activities for being great equates to living in your greatness. So in this first box, I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't already know, which is, in order to be great, there must be activities that you actually dedicate time to, right? So in the next box on this slide, you see self-improvement activities, 5 hours, 5 days. How did I come up with 5 hours, 5 days? I will explain to a level the back end algorithms or analysis that resulted in the Otium 5 challenge, in as much as it is needed to understand how to execute it. As I told a friend, when I begin talking about the Otium 5 challenge, I don't think people are interested in how all of the algorithms and mechanisms and research work. Like most people, they just want to know, Ed, how do I use it? Tell me how it works from the perspective of enabling my ability to use it. And so that's what I'm presenting to you today. You would select activities to be completed in 1 to 5 hours every 5 days. There's a rationale behind that. And I will give you this much in terms of the 5-day hours rationale. We've all grown up worldwide using a 7-day week. So, for the sake of discussion, and if you have a question, please put it in the comment section, a thought, put it in there so that I can use it as feedback and reply back to it as well. But going back to the fact that we've all been raised on a 7-day schedule. I don't know where we came up with the 7-day schedule. The important thing is that the Otium 5 challenge asks you to adopt a mindset where you complete activities in a 5-day period that repeats. So these are 5-day sprints or 5-day cycles. And within those cycles, you're going to allocate 1 to 5 hours for each activity that you select to be in your Otium 5 challenge blueprint. These activities will actually repeat every 5 days, just like that 5-day cycle is there. The important thing to remember is you've got to keep those activities. Each activity must exist for 20 days. Why 20 days? Well, you've heard of this rationale. It takes a certain period of time for you to adopt a new habit. You want to be able to do the activity that you decide is for self-improvement and self-empowerment long enough that you can actually have a cadence to it. And more importantly, you can evaluate whether it's working. So you need at least 20 days. Here again is the thinking, why not 30 days? Because we have in our mind that 30 to 31 days makes up a month. And what I'm pressing you to do as a mental challenge or inadvertently is that you don't have 30 days to complete these activities. You want to try and compress that time to create a sense of urgency and create a sense of discipline to complete the task or complete the activity within 20 days. Now, as we evolve in the Otium 5 challenge, you see in the next box, we talk about maturation levels. We're going to dive deeper into the maturation levels, but I will touch on them in this episode from this perspective. There are 3 levels to which you take the activity that's selected for your blueprint. The activities, again, are within the 5-day cycle that repeats, right? And you have to maintain those activities even as you're maturing them for 20 days. So what does your blueprint look like? 5 hours, 5 days, 5 principal activity areas. Let's talk about the 5 principal activity areas. When the Otium 5 challenge was designed, 5 principal activity areas were identified. They are not meant to be all-inclusive. However, they are sufficient for you to attain a level of greatness. You could select way more principal activity areas, but if you select 5, it's easier for you to remember and execute. And the goal here is to execute, not just to aspire to be great, but to live in your greatness. There are 5 principal activity areas: mind and greatness, body for longevity, adaptive resilience to change, impactful legacy, and peaceful enlightenment. So if we move to the next box, in terms of building your blueprint to your greatness, you're going to select a set of activities, and we're going to spend the next set of episodes and this entire podcast, believe it or not, looking at guest stories, looking at conversations that we have from the lens and perspective of the Otium mindset. And the Otium mindset said, look, you're going to still keep learning, and you're going to adopt or create a blueprint to empower your life journey. 5 hours, 5 days. You select the activities that you can do for 1 to 5 hours. 1 to 5 hours within that 5-day block. So let's look at an example of that. If we were to pick physical activity, a common concept that everybody shares around the world, physical activity doesn't have to be exerting yourself to no end. We're talking about walking, working in your garden, taking a hike. Those equate to exercise, but they're also physical activity, right? And physical activity, you can align to the principle number 2, body for longevity. I don't think it's a secret, but we're going to spend some time on physical activity and nutrition. These are one of the top 2 areas that we know historically and from a physiological level in humans allow our bodies to be healthier and to sustain health longer. Body for longevity. Going back to the example, if I asked you to do physical exercise for 1 hour a week, your first mindset is to go to, I have 7 days to complete this. Well, here's the point I'm making. Right off the bat, we need to start thinking in terms of you have 5 days to complete that 1 hour assignment or 1 hour activity. Think of it this way. If you took it to be 7 days and as busy as you can be, you did not manage to get that 1 hour of exercise in that week, you're thinking you have the next week. Well, what if that following week you did not complete it? You will have spent 14 days trying to achieve 1 to 2 hours of exercise in total for 14 days. Whereas if you had compressed your time and said, I only have 5 days to complete this, and if you missed that following day, you're really talking about 10 days to complete 2 hours of physical activity. Now, that may not sound challenging to many of you. Some of you already do physical activity at least 3 to 5 times per week. 7 days. What I'm proposing to you is check with your doctors, make sure you're physically able, because there are levels to maturity in terms of that activity. Look at the next box. There are 3 maturation levels. Each activity is going to be matured across those 20 days. And once you get out of level 1 to level 2, what does level 2 look like? We're going to discuss that. But in this example, level 2 is saying, Level 1 was 1 hour of exercise within 5 days. Level 2 can be 1 hour of exercise every single day for 5 days. But keep in mind, in that last box, the last numeric note says your activity must not only align into one of the principal activity areas, but it should be feasible to where you are in your life journey. What do I mean by that? If you're 20 years old and I say you're going to do exercise 1 hour a day, every day for 5 days, the exercise and the intensity of that exercise could be vastly different than a 61-year-old who also has in their blueprint for greatness physical activity 1 hour every single day for 5 consecutive days and repeat. So you see what I mean by feasible. The other way to look at feasibility is, what if you wanted to be a great swimmer? By virtue of that fact, you must have access either to a lake and hopefully really nice weather so that you can actually swim in that lake, and or you must have access to a swimming pool. That is a base requirement for that type of activity. And so the activity you select must be feasible, right? Okay. So that's building your blueprint to greatness using the hours, the days, and the 5 principal activity areas. Rome wasn't built in a day. I think everybody has heard of that actual phrase. I've given you the origin of the phrase, and it's actually from a medieval French piece of poetry. It was a collection that was published circa of 1190. But the point I'm making here on the slide is you have a lifetime to create and manage your blueprint to greatness. The analogy I keep referring to, and hopefully it makes sense to everybody, is that you have a lifetime to adapt and change and improve your blueprint. Most people are just not intentional about saying, I'm going to have these activities as habits in my life. The other analogy that I use often is you're literally flying the plane while you're building it. But the truth of the matter is, you don't know how great you're going to be. You don't know how great you can be. Because the only way you could measure your greatness is at the end of your journey. And so, since you're still here, this is exciting news. You are great beyond measure. And I say that, and I say it often, because you're great beyond measure because we haven't finished measuring. So, let's continue on this journey together. Put your comments, questions in the comments section below. Next episode, we're going to dive into the maturation levels. And then we're going to start with the activities. And here's a good segue to end this episode. Someone once asked me, they said, Ed, why don't you just give us the activities? Well, you're only getting part of the effectiveness of this program. Giving you the activities without the time management piece is not as effective. And you can debate the activities unless you know that there are actual buckets to which your activities must align holistically. So that's what I mean by the remainder of our episodes. And from now on, when you look at these episodes, I encourage you to think in that Otium mindset, which is I'm looking for activities that I can adopt, that someone has used, or someone has made a comment to in the comment section, that I can add to my blueprint for greatness. right? So I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And thank you so much for your time and interest.